Hey, what is going on? F Yeah podcast, Flatirons Young Adults. We are going to be sitting down today with our lead pastor, Jim Burgen. For those of you who were there, Jim Helst launched us in the fall, early in September. We had a great conversation about so many things. We're just going to sit down with Jim today, dig into a few more of those things, and get his wisdom on more of those topics. So we're super excited to have him join us, and let's get into the podcast. Jim,
Yep.
thanks for hanging out again, man.
Well, you said you wanted wisdom. This is going to be a really short podcast. Yeah.
Are you saying that because there's not a lot of wisdom to offer?
Well, we'll find out.
Okay, that's fair.
We'll find out.
That's fair. Jim, I want to dive just kind of right into a topic that we've been talking about a lot. I think really you've been even speaking a lot to on the weekend, kind of as far as all of Flatirons Church goes, and that's the process of discipleship. And I really want to dig into some more things specifically from the young adult generation. These 20s to 30s, really what that looks like. But first and foremost, maybe for anybody who hears that word, I know for me it was really charged growing up. It had a million different definitions. Would you just kind of define and talk about what you see discipleship being? Like, what is it? How has it played out? And just kind of talk about that to start.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of words in religion and church that sound like, therefore, like the very exclusive, like like saints, and the
Sure.
word disciple, like a disciple, seems like, but like the first picture you ever have of a disciple is Jesus meets this guy named Peter on a beach and goes, "Hey, instead of fishing, come follow me,
Yeah.
and I'll change your life." And he put down his nets and he took a step, and when he took that step, he by definition was a disciple.
Yeah.
It means I'm going to apprentice myself to that guy. I'm going to follow him around. I'm going to learn from him. I'm going to watch him. I'm going to listen to him, and then hopefully, not only will I be able to do some of the things he does, I'll be like him.
Sure.
All right. And you see that all the time. It's like in coaching, in sports.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, a coach takes on a team
Yeah.
of disciples. All right. The coach is going to show them what to do, show them how to do it, coach them.
Yeah.
Hey, tweak this. And then eventually they're going to be able to stand on their own. He's not going to go run the play for them.
Sure.
Okay. And so I think we could throw out the word disciple and say apprentice. I'm being formed into something else, and it's
Sure.
a long process, that discipleship journey. The official thing would be spiritual formation. I'm being spiritually reformed into something that looks more like Christ,
Yeah.
and that's a journey.
Yeah.
That's when Jesus looks at Peter and goes, "Follow me," and over the next several years,
Yeah.
something will
Right.
change in your life. But even it was more than like being in a Bible study or being in a small group, because after being in a small group with Jesus for 3 years, at the most crucial point, Peter blew it.
Yeah.
And then Jesus met with him again, restored him. But
You're
until
referring to the denial.
the denial, yeah. So, I mean, he had every opportunity I mean, if Jesus was your small group leader, he's like,
Yeah.
I can't fail, but he did.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the Spirit changed things inside later. And so I think discipleship is it's a process of following, learning from Jesus so you can become more like him. We do it in all parts of our life.
Yeah.
A lot of guys out there in the trade industry, they're actually called apprentices, like in pipe fitting or
Yeah.
welding or construction. You're an apprentice to a master, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah.
And then eventually you kind of take over and you get your trade. And so
Right,
it's
right.
the same process. It's not even a religious term.
Hmm.
It is a student. It's
It's like you're trying to become like the person that you're following.
yeah.
More so.
Not just like do what he does, but be the same kind of person.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just that even hit something home for me. I think so much growing up. And some people grew up in Christian backgrounds, some didn't. I grew up in a Christian background. It was a little skewed in some ways, but I mean, I always looked at it as like, hey, here's how you become a proper Christian and church goer, right? And I don't even think the term Christian was something that Jesus called his own followers. He
Jesus
called
didn't
them-
use the word.
Yeah, he called
It
them. he
didn't
called
start
them
till the
followers
book of
disciples.
Acts.
Yeah.
He called them, disciples or followers.
Yeah, and I always looked at it as, hey, how do you become, I think, the proper Christian, versus I think it really changes how we look at discipleship when it's more about, hey, how do we keep Jesus at the forefront, look at his character, study his life, and go, how do I become like that? Not necessarily become exactly who Jesus was, because he lived in a different context, but really learning, hey, how do we, if Jesus had my life now, and you've said this before, if Jesus had my life,
Yeah.
how would I form my character, my thought process, my approach on life to reflect the same type of principles and character and decisions that he had?
Yeah.
So it's more about a character.
When you're saying you want to be a Christian, what you want to say is I want to be the same kind of person Jesus is. all right? If he had my job, if he had
Yeah.
my marriage, if he had my girlfriend, like I can't have Jesus' life. I
Yeah.
would walk on water,
Sure.
right? I would heal the
Yeah.
the
Right.
blind. That's not in mine, right? But if Jesus had my job or had my career or
Mm.
went to my school or whatever that is, what would it's that old WWJD, but it's more than that. It's
Yeah.
not what would he do. It's like what kind of person would he be?
Mm.
And out of that, there we go.
There, everything forms from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, I think that's that. I mean, that's a great picture of kind of the high level view of it. But let's kind of bring it down maybe more to the practical side of things, because I think still there's maybe kind of this confusing aura about discipleship around. Okay, all of that sounds awesome, but how do we actually do it? Like, how do we actually become disciples? I mean, is there any wisdom you can offer there of like, hey, breaking it down to some of the most practical levels? These are some things that you do practically with your life that like someone like myself or people listening would have control of. That you would go, hey, this helps you become more like Jesus. This helps you actually fully form into a disciple and apprentice of Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
Because I think it's more than just, I think what we do a lot of times is, as Christians, especially in Western America, is, hey, I went to church and I prayed.
Hmm.
So I think I'm kind of in a good headspace with it. And I think that's part of it, but there's so much more to it. So how would you maybe start talking about the practicalities of what does it look like to actually do something to become a disciple? Like what balls are in our court that we can actually start to use to become
Well,
disciples?
all right. So I think let's don't put it in a other category. It's like every other thing in your life,
Hmm.
right? Disciple and discipline are the same. They come from the same root word.
Yeah.
So you play sports in high school?
Yep.
What'd you play?
Football and basketball.
Okay, so there were certain disciplines, right?
Yeah.
You learned a technique and then you went out on a field and you did it
You had to
over
do
and
it.
over and over
Yeah.
and over until it became muscle memory. And was like I think a lot of times we think like every Bible study is supposed to give us goosebumps, and every time
Huh.
with prayer is we're supposed to end up crying, and
Yeah.
confessing like some breakthrough or something like
Yeah.
that. And most of life's not like that. I wish that every day with my wife was just like that first day of my honeymoon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, that'd be exhausting, but it was a good day.
Yeah,
It was a good
I'm
day.
catching the drift.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is that I've been married 38 years.
Yeah.
Most of those 38 days of I don't know how 38 times 365 is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of them weren't like goosebump days,
Hmm.
right? They weren't. You're showing up day after day after
Mm.
day after day after day until it becomes a muscle memory.
Yeah.
So now I don't like. I know after work today, I'm not going to ask myself, should I go home?
Sure.
It's just who I am,
Yeah.
right? When did that come online?
Part of your
I don't
nature.
know. I don't know.
Mm.
Like my first week or two of marriage, I mean, especially when we got in our first fight, I was like, I don't think it's going to work.
Mm.
Maybe I made a mistake, all right?
Yeah.
And then you get into it, and after a while, it's like, no, this is just part of it. So all that to say, there's just little things you do every day until they become muscle memories.
Mm.
Like a prayer time. I see. I'd be honest with you. I'm not that guy that has a journal.
Sure.
I don't journal.
You don't have. Yeah. You
I
don't.
don't.
Yeah.
I've started journaling. I have so many journals that the first 3 pages have writing in them, and then
Pressed or blank.
then it's like
Yeah.
I can't do this. All right.
I love that.
I don't have a regular time every day that I pray or read the Bible. All right. I do have different things in my life though.
Sure.
Like I have conversational prayer with God,
Hmm.
like throughout the day.
What do you mean by conversational prayer?
I don't know. I'm just like thinking about Him or asking Him things
Mm.
or
And this
ask-
is more. Is this kind of
it's
more like a
windshield time
mental-
usually.
Okay.
It's while I'm doing something else. It's not like I
Yeah.
sit in a corner in a closet and then have my drink here and my candle here and my Bible.
Right,
I'm not
yeah.
that guy.
Sure.
I'm like, but if Robin, all right, let's go back to my relationship with Robin. Okay, if I go like, okay, Robin, you have from 5 to 5:30 every day.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm gonna go on with this other stuff. It's like no, throughout the day I'll call her or she'll text me because we're in constant communication. Or like,
Mm.
but there's more intense times. Like I better when I get home tonight, I know that I can't just open up my laptop and start doing stuff. It's like,
Right.
she hasn't seen me in the last 9 hours. Hey, I'm sitting right here on the bed.
Yeah.
You want to tell me about anything? It's like,
Sure.
so there are more intense times, but I think the more that we make discipleship this other thing that we do,
Hmm.
then it becomes unnatural.
Hmm.
All right. Now, disciplines are like at first, anytime you start something new, it feels weird.
Yeah.
Like the first time you start driving a car, you're like this. All right.
Yeah.
Now you multitask. You do 7 things when you're driving your truck down the road. You're changing this. You're checking text. You
Right.
shouldn't
Be,
do that.
yeah.
But
Not endorsing
no,
it.
we're not endorsing that. But right,
Yeah.
you're hardly even thinking about driving.
Right.
Right. But
Because
when
it's become so natural.
yeah,
to
so
you.
it's just what you do now. I don't. Do I think about my daily prayer time with God? I don't know. How many times have I talked to God today? Well, it's 10 till 11. I don't know. 20 or 30.
Hmm.
Can I point back to the times I talked to Him? No, I don't know.
But I love what you're saying because it's become, like you said, I think I hear 2 things with you where it has become nature, like you said, it's become part of who you are, but it's also become so practical. Because I think, specifically, one kind of habit or discipline that you are really pointing out is prayer. And I think so many times, I mean, I experience this. I'm not going to speak for everyone else, but I think a lot of people can relate with this. I feel so guilt-ridden if I don't have, like you were saying, that carved out, isolated time, which I'm not saying is bad. I think is actually really healthy to a certain extent. Of you go to this quiet place, you sit in silence, you have the candle burning, whatever. It's very routine and very ritualistic.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is,
And again, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning stages.
absolutely,
It's like you have to go to driver's ed 6 times a week,
yeah,
right?
yeah, mhm,
Right? You have to do that. You have to go to class. You have to get the basics,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But then after a while, it's like I'm not even thinking about that.
yeah. It just becomes part of who you are.
But I know you couldn't tell it on Monday night at the Bronco game, but
Oh, yeah.
I know
Let's not
that the
talk about it.
first day of camp this past summer, they ran drills that they've been doing since middle school,
Yep,
right?
didn't do enough.
Yeah,
thumping
they didn't.
drills,
They
but
just
ball
can't get
speed.
across that line. But you know what I'm saying? Is like
Ugh,
if first day of practice, the first week
Yeah.
of practice, you're not learning new plays. You're running the old drills, getting
Yep.
those old muscle things back.
fundamentals.
And so the beginning is like I go to church, I go to group, I read the Bible every day, I do
Mm.
this, okay, and that's fine. There's no wrong. But eventually, if everything is still that regimented,
Hmm.
then it's not natural, and it becomes something other than you.
Well,
That's not part of the natural flow of your life.
Yeah, and I think it also possibly stunts your growth or ability too, right? Like every single time that, say for example, we'll use the Bronco example, Russell Wilson, the guy can work on those basic fundamentals in camp of, hey, here's my 3-step drop, here's my footwork, here's how I throw the ball, here's how I read a defense. But if he has to do that every single time in that such a structured way during a game, it's not going to work out.
No.
It has to become muscle memory for him so
Right.
that he can actually ad lib and grow and build off of that so that his
Yeah.
game can actually become more efficient and more effective.
So at our men's summit back in August,
Mm.
Rourke Denver, who used to run SEALs, right, Navy SEALs, he said the reason we're so good at what we do is repetition.
Yeah.
His unit shot more rounds of ammunition in training than the entire Marine Corps that year
Wow.
because they did it over and over and over and over and over
Yeah.
and over. Okay. He also said this on the field. He's never seen a battle plan go according to plan.
Hmm.
Every time he had to adjust.
Hmm.
But because the muscle memories were there, he didn't have to relearn how to shoot or relearn how to do this or relearn how to do that. He knew how to do that. He could just adjust on the fly because
The basics.
the basics were all there.
core principles. Yeah.
So I don't have to sit there and going, is there a Bible verse? Have I studied a Bible verse for this situation?
Sure.
It's so ingrained in your
Who you
head
are.
that now it's like you just respond to that. You know?
Yeah.
Like for almost 3 years, I read nothing but the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew
Mm.
5, 6, and 7.
Is this the time when you quoted it?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I quoted almost every day in the sauna at Lifetime Fitness. It's like my
Wow.
sweat lodge, and I just bring it back. And the reason is I want to live in 3 chapters, not the New Testament.
Sure.
Right now, I'm not saying forever,
Yeah.
but when I'm just saying, okay, I know those 3 chapters so well, I see everything through that lens.
Hmm.
I love through that lens. I see marriage through that lens.
Yeah.
I see money through that lens. I see fear through that lens. I see how I judge other people through that lens. You know, and,
Wow.
and I see a better way because I'm not really thinking about it. It's
Mm.
just part of who I am now.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're going to run after discipleship, there's some parts of the beginning they're just rote. I just got to do them over and over and over
Yeah.
and over and over
Yeah.
again. But eventually, it's like I don't even think about it. It's like when I'll give you another example. Driving, like I learned how to drive a stick shift.
Sure.
Okay, it's you're doing
Oh,
this
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
popping the clutch
I've
on
only
the
driven
hill.
stick
You're
like once or twice. And
yeah.
Yeah.
But after a while, you're just like you're not thinking about clutch.
Yeah. It
but,
just
you know,
happens.
it just happens.
Yeah.
It's like that
Hmm.
with following Christ and
Discipleship, yeah.
discipleship.
That's good.
Let's not put it in this elite category.
Hmm.
You start it. I always use this illustration. So I got grandkids. All right, they're learning they're like third, fourth grade.
Yeah.
In first grade, they were learning 1 plus 1 equals 2.
Right.
2 plus 2 equals 4. That makes them a mathematician.
Hmm.
There's a guy up at CU who has a PhD in advanced physics, right? What is he? He's a mathematician. He's just further down the road.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
he started here.
Yeah.
But they're all, if you go, hey, they're in the same category called mathematicians.
Mathematics, yeah.
So we're disciples. We're just further along.
Yep, keep going. So, but before I get kind of into the next questions I want to ask you, I think you mentioned two things in that which one was prayer, the other one was obviously studying the Bible, getting in God's Word. Are there any other, if you were looking at someone who's going, hey, I'm trying to wrap my head around how do I even take control of my faith and actually become more of a disciple? Is there any other maybe habit or discipline or practice that you would recommend besides prayer and Bible study that you'd go, hey, for someone who really wants to start on this journey or someone who really wants to pick this journey up, what are the things that you would go, hey, maybe daily basis, weekly basis, besides maybe just praying, trying to get in the Bible on a consistent basis? Is there anything else you would go, hey, I would really strongly recommend leaning into this?
Absolutely. Doing it in community with another person or other people. The Christian life was never supposed to be, it's a personal thing. It's not a private thing. All right. It's not meant to be lived in isolation.
Wow.
We are meant from the Trinity itself as a community to the way God created us. It's not good for you to be alone. Right. So he's like, don't try to do this by yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Because as you feed into other people, they feed into you. And we were meant to do this together. If it's just you and Jesus on a mountain, that makes you a hermit.
Well, yeah, and Jesus himself retreated to go
Absolutely.
spend time with God, but he was
so that he could go back.
Yep, go back and be with.
Right.
That's good. Yep.
Right. And he didn't go off when everything was done. It was never done. So we time out. I've got to go rest so that I can come back and you get all of me. But we were never. Jesus sent people out 2 by 2, not 1 by 1. Right.
Yeah.
We were never meant to follow God in isolation from other people.
Yeah.
Right. The person who says I love God but hates his brother is a liar about loving God. That's what John writes. So it's like you have to do this in community. Is it impossible to do it on your own? I think there are some times when it just needs to be you and God in a quiet moment.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But if that's all your relationship is with God, it's like, so I'll be a little graphic here. I think a lot of Christians go to
the FEF podcast. You can be as graphic as you want.
Okay, I think that most Christians are guilty of spiritual masturbation.
Okay, explain that.
Well,
what does that mean?
Masturbation is self-serving. What do I get out of it? It doesn't help anybody else. It doesn't impose on anybody else, but I don't need anybody else to do this. It's just me, right? And it's like it serves me, and when I'm done, I feel good. And then what?
Just making yourself feel
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about me, and you can be really selfish. It's just me and Jesus, me and Jesus, me. Jesus never said for you to just be me and Jesus. He says, let's gather together. Let's encourage one another. Let's serve one another, and it's like. I think that's pretty much it. Is I think that you have to know God's word, and that's what we're really running after here at Flatirons now. Okay, we can talk more about that. I think that you have to have conversations with God, hearing from and talking to. But it's not just I recite the Lord's Prayer.
Sure.
Or it's not like, hey God, I need to do this, and this. Sometimes just being quiet and just realizing His presence. Like there's a great book by Brother Andrew. No. Brother Lawrence.
Yep.
Practicing the presence of God.
Yep.
And I've done that for a long time. I've done Apache prayers where you just like you leave out all the New Age stuff, but you just like I just sit here until I know God's here. And there's times when I go like I think He's right here. I'm sure He's right here.
Yeah.
I mean He's that.
Is that more so of like you're saying kind of like you get a realization of like the manifestation of His presence, or it's more so you are practicing in a mental way going, I'm picturing God right here?
I don't know which one it is.
Huh.
I know He's here.
Sure.
Right. Acts says if you reach out, you find that He's not far at all.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to reach out. And so I think there's like being still and going, okay, I'm actually in the presence of God. I am all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, does a fish know he's in water? I don't know. Right? But it's like I'm living in the presence of God. Every once in a while I need to slow down and go like, I'm living in the presence of God. Like,
and realize that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the closest out of body experience I've ever had one time was in South Sudan, and I was still for like 20 minutes. Just I'm not asking anything from you, God. I just want to know you're here.
Just recognize.
And the closest thing I've ever had to a vision was I felt like I didn't like float through the room or anything, but this is a great story. I was I could see myself leaning against a pine tree, looking
Yeah.
down a hill, and I knew he was right there.
Wow.
And if I would have turned around, he might not have been there. But I felt like if I could reach back, I'd go, there he is, right there.
Yeah. Wow.
And you say, well, that's a mind game. I don't care. If the relation, if a reality that's ongoing that I don't pay attention to, and I slowed down and I paid attention to it, and I
Yeah.
felt his presence.
Wow.
So call it meditation, call it contemplative prayer, whatever it is. But say, hey, I'll take a time out. Just be in your presence, God. I don't ask anything from you. You know what I need,
Yeah.
right?
It's a process of
I just need
wow.
to sit still in your presence.
Yeah. Well, based on what you said, I love that. I actually want to dig into something else. This is a little different than what I think we originally planned on talking about, but I actually think it's really important because I think it's something that so many young adults are craving, but also really struggle with identifying and having, and that's actual community.
Mhm.
Because I think there's a difference between we can all have acquaintances, we can all have friendships, but I think when we talk about the church, right, that are the original term that is coined in the Bible, ecclesia, however we want to pronounce it. It's a group of people united around one common purpose. But there were distinct characteristics that Jesus said, hey, my followers, my church, I want them to have. And you're saying, hey, outside of prayer, outside of really getting in your Bible, which are essential and great, you need to do that in community. I think a lot of us hear that and we go, yeah, I have friends, but I don't even know how I can practically do that. What would you say as far as community goes for someone who's trying to follow after Jesus, who's someone who's trying to become a fully formed follower, a disciple of Jesus? What makes community distinct in that manner? Like, how would you identify community and go, hey, those are the type of people you need to surround yourself with?
I think that I'm looking for the right word here. So you have this knowledge, you have this thought, you have these beliefs, you have this conviction, right? And now
Mm-hmm.
you have some other people to practically go, what would it look like if we put it into practice?
Hmm.
Okay? So it's like how do we interact with each other based on this, all right? And then what would we do together to serve purposes that God cares about?
Hmm.
Because I think that community can be another self-serving, hey, we circled the wagons and we've got
Right.
Jesus and
Yeah.
us and screw the rest of the world. It's like
Right.
that came together to so that God's will on earth could be done like it is in
Through
heaven,
us.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Hmm.
hey, we're all together, aligned in the right mind, going after the right things that Jesus cares about. So we can all pray about it and sing about it and like
Yeah.
all agree about it. Now, to what end? And that is to bring about something on the earth that's not happening
Hmm.
that God wants to happen. So in James chapter 2 it says, so he's talking to Christians who
Yeah.
have found this little community, right? And he says, okay, say you find somebody and they're hungry and without food,
Yeah.
right? And you say, well, we'll be praying for you and
Yeah.
be blessed. Well, right. And then doesn't do anything about it.
Hmm.
It's dead faith. Okay.
Hmm.
So we're in a group of community that's faith based. We're running after Christ. He's like, what is the baby on the side of the road that needs food and right? What is
Hmm.
the thing that needs fed? What
Yeah.
is the thing that needs, justice? What is the thing? So we're united around this. Okay. So what? Let's bring something about that God wants to happen on the earth that's not happening. Let's go love that person.
That's
Let's
pretty
include that
amazing.
person.
Yeah.
Let's go feed that person. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. What I hear you saying is this is when kind of identifying community and really going, hey, this is a community that is going to send you to that place. That's going to further your discipleship. That's going to help you run after Jesus. Is number one, the principalistic beliefs, like the approach has got to be there. Hey, we all got to be running after the same thing.
Yeah.
There's got to kind of be this whether spoken or unspoken thing. When I get together with these people, I know they're running after Jesus too, and that's got to be number one. But number two is we actually have to invest in spending time together, not just getting to know each other and hanging out, but actually, for lack of a better term, being on mission. Like these are going to be
Yeah.
people who
Well
actually
said.
push me to go, hey, either like you said, the baby on the side of the road, let's go accomplish something that God wants done in the world, or I'm going to push you as an individual, like in your marriage, in your dating relationship, whatever it is. I'm going to push you to go accomplish the mission that God might have put out for your life in this
Yeah.
season.
But push almost feels like we're resistant. All
Mm.
right. I think that the purpose of the community is, I think it's in the book of Hebrews, it says, hey, don't not meet together.
Don't neglect the
Don't neglect,
Yeah.
right? But come together to encourage one another and to spur one another
Mm.
on. So it's like, hey, I'm cheering you on in your marriage. I'm not like going, I
You
noticed
have to do, yeah.
you aren't doing that right. You aren't doing it. Like, I'm not going to come to that meeting very often.
Oh, for sure.
It's like if I get together with some other, old adults, young adults, dudes, whatever that is, and all they're doing is going, and you're wrong, and
Calling each
you're
other,
doing
yeah.
this, and
Mm.
So you failed. He's like, man, I see this in you. You're doing good.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm doing good. No, buddy, you're too hard. Let's go. Right?
It's about encouragement.
It's,
Wow.
all right. Spurring one another on. You got this, man. You got
Yeah.
this. I won't miss that meeting.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, because you're going to go build people up that you love, and that you're going to come in and also be built up. You're not going to be torn down.
Yeah.
Man, that's really good. Wow. So with that being said as well, so we talked about community, we talked about Bible study, we talked about prayer. I want to give just kind of the last little chunk of time we have here, and we can stretch this out a little bit more if we need to. I'm really curious, Jim, when it comes from your perspective as someone who's not only been in ministry, but just has more life under his belt than the 2030s of this current day and age. If you were to look at, and I want to start with the pitfalls first, if you were to look at young adults, or just maybe even just people in general, our culture, and you see, hey, on this path and this track of following Jesus, of not only becoming more like him, but I think what you just said as well is actually being able to grab hold of maybe that mission of that the God would have for their life and chasing after it with everything they have.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the pitfalls that you see people fall into, or that you potentially could see people falling into in that journey, just in today's day and age in 2022 Colorado, America?
Yeah. Okay, so I think I could expand this to North American culture, but I definitely see it in the younger half, which would be y'all,
Sure.
right? And that is under this flag of freedom and individuality, right? We've lost the sense of we. It's just I. Like everybody's an individual. Everybody do your own thing.
Like individualism is praised.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like me. It's like if you think about the sports that are big in Colorado, you ski by yourself, you hike by yourself, you mountain bike by yourself, you rock climb by yourself. Almost everything. And team sports here are just not that great.
Wow.
They're not really
even
they're not even praised that, right? I mean, Colorado is known for it's me on a mountain, it's me on a trail,
Yeah, in terms
it's
of
me in a
like
canoe, it's me in a kayak, right?
Yeah.
It's like the mindset here. I go run. You see all these people out on bikes, right? I'm sure they have conversations on their breaks, but I mean,
and they go with people, but like you said, like the goal that is being accomplished in that sport, it does not take someone else to do it.
right? And
Wow.
it's really me against me, right? And it's very right. And the same thing was everybody do your own thing. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. See, in the Bible, that mindset wasn't even there. There was. And the Jewish people still have that.
Sure.
They're part of the nation of Israel, right?
Yeah.
They still have a national identity. I don't care if you're Jewish in Russia or Jewish in South America or Jewish in New York City. You're Jewish, right?
there's an
You have a
identity there.
sense of that, okay? We don't even have that as Americans anymore. I mean, we're so polarized, right?
Yeah.
But the same thing in the church. Don't tell me how to live my faith. Don't tell me what to do, right? I mean, if at any time I expect half the room to walk out when I say anything that's like absolute, right?
Sure.
Because it's like I don't know if I like
Absolutes
that.
have become politically incorrect nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
There is no absolute truth. There is absolute truth is Jesus. But I think that the danger that young adults and students today is like I just have to be me, and if I can't be me, I can't sacrifice that to be us. And sometimes there's a need to go like there's a bigger thing at play here, right? It's like I have to be me. And if Robin doesn't like it, I'll divorce her. You just bail, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's something where you go like I lay down a certain level of independence, right? I'm my own person.
Yeah.
I'm not independent. I am married,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I am my own person. I have a lot of people that I'm in community called the Flatiron staff. I can't live my life going. I don't care if it screws them or not. This is what God wants me to do. It's like I don't think. Very rarely I think God's saying, throw everybody away and do your own thing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I think there has to be this restored realization of I'm part of something that God's doing here, and I'm a piece of it. Like I'm teaching through First Peter, and it says, so we have a cornerstone called Jesus,
Yeah.
and then we're all living stones, and we're being built up. He's building us into something, and it's like, well, I'm not into that. No, you're part of us.
Yeah.
Right? It's like in another place, Paul says the community called the church is a body. And some people are fingers, and some people are elbows, some people are noses. Some people get a lot of attention, some people.
Yeah.
But we need each other.
Right.
Right? And if the hand stays to the foot, I don't need you, then we all fall apart. So I think that when it comes to discipleship, we have to slow down so some people can keep up, and some other people need to speed up, right?
Mm,
But we have to take care of each other.
right.
And I think there's like
Wow.
I'm in community. I'm a part of something, and I just feel like in America right now, and in the American church, the moment something doesn't go your way, you bail,
Mm. It's everyone
right? In
else's fault.
church, in
Yeah.
marriage, in
Huh.
friendships, and it's like, nope, I'm not into that, but we're into that,
Yeah.
and we said we would stick together, and so I would say one of the pitfalls or the dangers you have to keep aware of is that muscle memory that's been driven into you since kindergarten. Be your own person. Look into your own heart. Be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, first of all, I'm going to look to God.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to look to other people,
Mm.
and then see now what has God equipped me to do to be a part of that? I'm not first. God is,
Yeah.
and then Jesus let go of I'm number one
Sure.
and took on the form of a servant,
Yeah.
and then said we
Me
got to have
too.
that kind of attitude, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that as a young adult saying I'm pursuing Christ, you've got to get rid of the me and Jesus alone.
It's all about me. Yeah.
It's all about me and Jesus, and we're
Mm.
good, so don't judge me or something like that. And it has to become about I'm joining myself. That's what baptism is. It was a way you entered into a new kingdom,
Mm.
into a people.
Yeah.
First Peter chapter
It's like
2.
a rite of
Yeah,
passage.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's exactly. It's an
Yeah.
initiation into a new birth.
Mm.
I'm part of a new family. You're a chosen people. You're a chosen race. You weren't that. Now you are.
Yeah.
I'm actually part of something. If again you watch the
Mm.
Broncos or something like that and it goes like, well, I know the play that we said we were going to run, but I wanted to do something different.
Yep.
Game over.
100%. Or that's where truly, I mean, this is probably getting too deep into the sports analogy, but that's where teams start falling apart.
Hmm.
Is when a coach or a player or a quarterback or whatever says, "Hey, I disagree with the philosophy." Everything falls apart. Everyone's got to be on the same page for success to happen.
Well, I think that's a great example. We don't really cheer for teams anymore. We cheer for players.
Yep.
That's how individualistic we get. And a player has no loyalty. They'll flip from this team to this team. They're not
Wow.
going to.
Yeah.
I remember Arnaud and I remember Gonzalez. All these people going. I'm going to do my whole career. And they're gone.
Oh yeah.
Right? They got a better deal. And so I think we do the same thing with. This is my group. I got a better deal. Bye.
Mm.
And we tap out.
Yeah,
So I would say
it's
that would
easier
be a
for us.
pitfall. I think, and we'll wrap this up, but I think the one of the strengths is you have less baggage to unpack than
Sure.
people that are. Oh, I've been doing this for so many years,
Yeah.
right? It's like you guys are still young enough and flexible enough in your life, in your
Mm.
careers, and in the thing, your obligations.
Yeah.
You can pivot pretty quickly,
Sure. Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As opposed to I've got 14 mortgages and loans and car payments and 3
Yeah.
kids in college and blah
Right.
blah blah blah. It's like that boat's gonna be slow to turn.
For sure.
You're at a point in your life right now where I'm not saying it can be like a 90-degree,
Yeah, oh,
right,
yeah.
right, but it's like there's for some of us, and we have other kind of baggage to
Mhm.
unpack.
Oh yeah.
But in terms of I'm so committed down this road, I don't know how to change it. That you have how about this? You have more flexibility and more.
Bandwidth.
Yeah, I don't know about bandwidth. Let me say this. From this point on in your life, it's only going to get harder to make changes,
Wow. Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Because you're going to be taking on more and more and more and more and more. Because
Yeah.
you're not going to be a young adult one day. You're going to be a middle-aged adult one day,
Mhm.
and you're not going to right. And you're going to have all these obligations, and they're not bad obligations.
Yeah.
But you get a choice right now to choose what you're going to oblige yourself to.
Mm.
That's going to own you pretty much, or at least 80 hours a week,
Yeah.
until you're 60,
Right.
right, and retire or something like that. So you have
Huh.
more autonomy is not the right word. More flexibility, more ability to pivot and make changes in your life.
Huh.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm just saying it's going to be easier now than it is later,
Yeah.
because it's going to get more complex. It's going to get more weighty.
Yeah.
You're going to have more things demanding your time.
Yep.
Right? You have a choice right now to make some changes in your life
Yeah.
that down the road are going to be a lot harder to make.
I think what I hear you saying is we have more opportunity in this season of life because we don't have as many responsibilities to
I did.
either
I didn't say no responsibilities because
Yeah.
you carry a lot.
100%.
All right.
But to your point, I think the majority of it is like, I mean, I'm at that point right now where it's like some of my friends are starting to have kids. Some friends are still single, waiting the waters. Some friends, it is kind of a hodgepodge of seasons. But to your point, it's like we have more freedom and ability in this season to either continue to build or tear down.
Yeah.
Versus 25 years from now, it is going to be so much harder and take so much more work to either build something fresh or tear something down that needs to be torn down.
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is that in this season, the potential we have is potential itself.
Yeah.
Is we have more of a blank canvas than probably the rest of all of adult America, if that's even a proper term.
Yeah.
To kind of build and do something with. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that.
No,
or disagree with that.
I do. I just don't. You don't have a blank canvas. You just don't have as your canvas is going to get more full.
More paint on the canvas.
More stuff's going to end up in
Yeah.
there that you're going to have to navigate. So I say this all the time, like, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just an is thing, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I used to take a lot of people to Afghanistan.
Mhm.
All right, I would look at young parents and go like, I'm not taking both of you. Not in this season of life. Because the reality is we go over there and a bomb goes off, those kids lose both parents.
Wow.
Wouldn't be wise
Yeah.
in this season of life.
Hmm.
Now, you're not, I would take you and your wife, if you both want to go to Afghanistan with me,
Sure.
let's go,
Yeah.
right? Because there's not as many ripple effects. You're just looking out for you two,
100%.
right? You
Yeah.
don't have all these
There's
obligations.
nothing back home.
And they're
that's
not bad
going- yeah,
obligations. They're just real obligations. And
for
so
sure.
I think right now you have more flexibility, more opportunity, and less baggage than you're going to have later.
Wow.
So that's
Huh.
a real opportunity.
Yeah, and potential there.
Yeah.
Man, Jim, I really wish we could just continue this conversation more and more. I'd definitely love to invite you back on at some
Let's
point
do
in the future and continue having the conversation. But
I love this.
yeah, we appreciate you coming and helping us launch, man, and we really appreciate you hopping on and following up with us. So
Anytime.
appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to the Flatirons Young Adults podcast. If you have not already done so, please subscribe to this podcast so you can get notifications about when our new episodes are dropping. If you don't follow us on social media, follow us on social media at FlatironsYA. You can stay up to date with all of our live gatherings if you're in the Colorado area, our upcoming socials that we have once a month where we just get together and hang out and form community with one another. And at the end of the day, do not forget to share this with a friend if it has affected or touched your life. We will see you next time on the F Yeah podcast.